In this video, we're going to be talking about another concept from section 7.2 that is one that's an important concept, but probably something that it's been a while since you've seen. Just being very honest with you, box plots and box and whisker plots are not something that I have memorized, that I readily know how to do. So I don't expect you to memorize how to create these plots. What I do expect you to do is to be able to follow a set of instructions from your notes, from the book, and be able to create one of these given a set of data. The idea of a box and whisker plot, or just more simply a box plot, is to create a visual representation of the data that has four components that basically divides the data into four main sections. So I'm going to show you how to do that. The box and whisker plots are always accompanied by a number line. So we'll give an example of what this looks like. So I'm going to start here with my number line. And an easy place to start is to know that the smallest value I need to have on my number line is 2. And the largest value I need to have on my number line is 16. If you're not connecting why I'm saying that, I'm going to do a box and whisker plot for this set of data. I don't really need to have values that are below my lowest data point or above my highest data point. Okay, and then from there I'll fill in. Step one of forming a box plot or box and whisker plot is to find the median of the set of data, and that median will divide the data into two parts. So, going back to our previous video, I need to be able to find the median. In this case, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 data points. So, the median, since I have an even number, is actually going to be the average of my two middle numbers. So, if I start at the exterior of the data, and I work my way in, one by one, I find that the two middle numbers here are 6 and 7. And the average of those would be 6.5. So my median in the very center of my data here is the value 6.5. Let me see if I can actually go ahead and divide these off. I'm going to adjust this a little bit so that my scale is good. We'll go ahead and fill these in. If you have larger values, it's definitely not necessary to label by ones. That would take forever if these numbers were much larger, but in our case, it's simple enough that I can do that. So the first thing that I'm going to plot is the median, which divides my data into 2 points. So here's 6.5. So I'm going to go up and I'm going to make a vertical line representing my median. In the book, this is also going to be the middle quartile, which they often call Q2. You'll see why here in a second. Once I've established that, I've divided my data into two parts, and I'm now going to take each of those two remaining parts and I'm going to find their medians. All right? So if I start with the lower remaining part of data, finding the median of that is actually pretty simple because there's an odd number. So the median of this is actually 4. Okay? So I'm going to go back to my graph here, and I'm going to draw another vertical line at 4. And then I need to find the median of this higher part, this higher set of the data, this higher half of the data. So again, following the same process, I arrive with the median being 12. So I go here. These three vertical lines form the box part of the box and whisker plot. So just connecting these, you'll see that I now have a box. This lower line is Q1, my lower quartile. This upper line is Q3, my upper quartile. And then the final thing that I'm going to do to create this before we analyze it and talk a little bit more is I'm going to do the whisker part of the box and whisker plot. The whisker part is the easiest part because all I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my lowest data point, 2, and I'm going to put a dot there and connect that dot to the box and then repeat that for the highest data point, 16. And that is the box and whisker plot. Now, so what's significant about that and what can we do with that? The first thing that I want you to note is that one of the purposes of the box and whisker plot is a visual representation that approximately 25% of the data points live in each of these intervals. Now you'll notice that these two parts of the box are not the same size. There's no guarantee that they are going to be the same size, and actually the majority of times they're not the same size. If you get two boxes that aren't the same size, that's not a problem. That doesn't mean that you've done something wrong. I'm going to backtrack just a second. One of the recommendations they make in the book that's kind of standard practice with box and whisker plots is to shade one portion of your box, one half of the box, just so that you can visually see a little more distinction between the two. So approximately 25% of the data lives in each of these intervals. So it kind of shows you how spread out the data is. So you notice that because this box is a lot larger, there's still about 25% of the data that falls from 6.5 to 12, but I have a larger spread of my data there than I do here with the smaller part of the box. So I would encourage you to read and reread the section on box and whisker plots, look at some of the example problems from the book, and then as you're working through the application problems in the homework, revisit those, and then additionally reach out to me if you have some additional questions on the topic.